Now before we jump into the course, I want to give you a little course overview as a map, so that you'll know kind of where we're headed and what you're going to see here. We're going to start off and we're going to talk about some basics about Microsoft development. If you're in the C# world, especially if you're new to it, there's a lot you may not know about Microsoft development. We'll talk a little bit about C# history, some programs called DreamSpark, BizSpark. We'll talk a little bit about certification with Microsoft on their development side. Then we'll take a look at course prep, how to get Visual Studio, how to install it, a little tour to help you get comfortable with Visual Studio. Then we'll move into really the meat of the course. We'll start off with object-oriented programming basics, what it is. Then we'll talk about the value and reference types in C#, classes and objects and how they're related, properties and fields. Then we'll get into methods, understanding methods, overloading methods, name parameters, optional parameters, those sorts of things, constructors for classes, and those kinds of functionalities. Then we'll jump in specifically with working with these types, and we'll talk about things like access modifiers. We'll talk a little bit about inheritance. And then we'll get into interfaces. We'll talk about interfaces and implementing interfaces like I-comparable or comparable, however you want to say that, I-enumerable. And then the one that confuses everybody, we'll go through it really thoroughly, I-disposable and the whole garbage collection process and how to code that up. The finalize method, GC, suppress, finalize, and all those sorts of things. We'll talk about the using statement, and we'll look at some examples with generics and that sort of thing. Then we'll get into program flow very lightly. These are the staples of programming you're probably already familiar with: the if statement, looping, the switch statement, those sorts of things. Then we'll talk about some multi-threading. We'll touch on this. There's not going to be a lot of this on the exam, but it is mentioned in an objective. So we'll talk about spawning threads, the new functionalities, async and await, really cool stuff there. The task parallel library, some of the other aspects of multi-threading in the Microsoft environment. Then we'll dive into delegates and events. And this is one of those things that it's absolutely necessary that you understand what's going on with delegates and events in the Windows development world. And so we're going to go through some very simple examples with delegates, understanding what they are, look at them in code. We're going to talk about things like anonymous methods. We're going to jump on events and do the simplest event example you've ever seen in your life to help you get your head wrapped around those. And then we'll finish it on out and we'll kind of build on it and get you up to speed with the way Microsoft implements events in their operating systems. Then we'll talk about building applications. We're talking about compiler directives, choosing a build type. Then we'll close the course out talking about some security, encryption, just a little bit about managing assemblies and so forth. So we're going to cover quite a bit of information. So get comfortable, grab something to sip on as you watch, and let's get ready for this exam.